Good to see everybody. So we want to make sure a bunch of people see this so we can have a good discussion here tonight. But welcome to Wednesday Night Live. Stacy, welcome.
I'm happy to be here. Couldn't be more excited.
And I love the mood lighting in the background there by you. It's lovely.
This is our, there's nothing on our walls anymore. This is our
Getting ready to move.
Wow, that's crazy. That's pretty exciting though. Moving is always exciting.
Very excited.
All right, so it is, what's the time here? 3 minutes past 8. I'm going to give it 2 more minutes till 5 after, and then we're going to get started. But welcome to Pam. Pam Johnson, good to see you. Ezra, good to see you.
Should I just go down and visit?
Holly. Hello, Holly. Nate, Reem, Wendy Willoughby. Whoop, whoop. Can I have a witness? Holly commenting from the couch. Yes, she did. Hello, Clive. Good to see you as well. And I hope you're all having a lovely start to summer. Been good so far. Stacey, what's a good word?
A good word.
Can you hear me, Stacey?
Is when God gives you helpmates, use them. Come, Holly.
I wasn't planning this. I got my 64 shirt. So well.
There you
Yes.
go, representing.
Yeah, representing very well. All right. So let's, well, 4 minutes. I did say 5. I'm going to give it 1 more minute and then we'll get started. We are kind of picking this form. I had no idea how many people would be signing on with us tonight. So, instead of doing a Zoom meeting and maybe there were 50, maybe there were 100 people who joined, or 10 or 20 on Facebook. Wasn't sure, but we did want some interaction. So please, if you are here online on Facebook, please comment. Give us a whoop. Hello, Pete Monax. Give us a whoop whoop. And we'd love to get some comments from you, get some feedback from you, get some praise reports from you. We will also be putting this on YouTube for those people who could not make tonight, although they won't get the live aspect of being able to ask questions right away. But here we are. It is 5 after 8, and we're at Wednesday Night Live. My wife will be joining us in just a moment. And Stacy, we are good to go, aren't we? Everything is on Facebook. And
yeah,
all right, good. So here we go. We wanted to talk tonight about what, Stacy? What have you got for me?
Oh dear.
That's an excited look you have on your face.
No, nothing.
Stacy? Oh, no.
I just saw AJ.
Good. Well, we wanted to talk tonight a little bit. Hey, AJ. Ooh, very excited about seeing AJ. We got a praise report about the Senna family. We're going to be getting into that in a moment. But here it is. We wanted to talk about what ReMerging is, what it looks like for our church to come out of hibernation, in a sense, and kind of join the wide world again. But as I was thinking about that thought, it's important to recognize the church was never closed. It was never closed. And Stacy, you can give me as much holler as you want, and Holly, and Kathy, then I feel like we're in a live setting. And if you agree with anything I say or disagree, give me a thumbs up on Facebook.
Or
because
thumbs
no
down.
thumbs down. Well, okay, if you want to disagree, you may. But the church is never closed, and it has seemed, as we've just gotten ready for tonight, just thinking back on the last 11 or 12 weeks, March 15th was the last time I believe we were together, or March 15th was the first Sunday we had church in the home. There was supposed to be the men's retreat that weekend, right, yeah, and it got canceled the night before, I remember. It was quite the time. So 2 prophetic words we got within a month of going on shutdown. One was from Paul Bergen, and he said something like this. He says, the church has been a small bonfire to this point, warming, a small bonfire sitting around a fire pit at your house, and you can imagine it can warm a number of people that comes around it. But he felt that God was going to transform it into a bushfire, a wildfire that is going to have a much greater impact. And as he was sharing that, if you can remember, Paul Bergen was literally 2 weeks before lockdown. There was Paul Bergen's weekend, and we got together one more time at Centennial, and then the lockdown happened. I believe those words are as true and as relevant, as important today, even more so than when Paul shared it. And I have so much faith for what God is doing and wanting to do in 614. And you'll see some evidence of that in just a few minutes. When Cindy was here in February, she prophesied over the church, and she said, it is harvest time. It is harvest time, just referring to the fact that God wants to bring so many more people into the kingdom of God through 614. And this is the time for a harvest. And that's just amazing, amazing, amazing. And if you think of these grand words about the Lord growing the stature of 614 and growing the impact that 614 is going to have, to then immediately shutting down. And you're like, what is the Lord doing? And guess what? Yeah. He knows exactly what he's doing. He knows exactly what he's doing. So I'm going to share my screen. And this, I feel like I'm back at work. But let's see how this works. And I'm going to share my Chrome. Oh, please work. Yes.
There you go.
Yes. And yes. Stacy, why don't you let me know if you can see my screen real nice?
Looks great. Looks great. Top notch.
Top notch. Oh. Okay. Hello, Jennifer Metz. Hello, Kristen Senef. Okay, so we want to talk about re-merging plans. And as I said, before we get started, there have been so many incredible things. It feels like the church has gone actually to a whole different level in the last few weeks. And you may be saying, you're just dreaming, David. But no, I'm not. Let me show you. This is just a little snapshot of some of the things that have happened at 614 over the last, since March 15th, it's 11 or maybe 12 weeks. Kathy's going on Instagram Live here. Are you doing that too, sweetie?
I figured I might as well.
All right. So this is what's happened over the last few weeks. We just started listing a couple things on Monday and came up with 10 things. And I want to go through each one of these just for a moment. The church has been the church in this season in such an incredible way. Hello. Hello, Instagram. You can't see what I'm doing on Facebook Live, but you can join us in just a minute. Okay. Number one, kids ministry. I'm actually going to go through the list like this. If you want to follow, look at this, come on. Okay, kids ministry. Let me hear a whoop whoop for kids ministry. Kathy,
so
Sarah.
Yes,
Okay.
Very good.
Kids ministry. So look at this. Alyssa Morrison has killed it with kids ministry. And if you are online, please give her lots of praise and lots of handshakes and your favorite emoji. She has been writing curriculum. She has been coming up with characters. She's assembled a team around her. We've had Leah doing worship every single week. We've had Brendan, Connor in various forms of costumes. We've had a green screen. We've had Cecilia singing and worship and the actions and everything going on. It's amazing. Connor played some djembe or cajon, as well, and it's been amazing. She's been resourceful, been creative, and all the people who were helping in kids ministry, most of them weren't even volunteers in the kids ministry. So a massive thank you to what the kids have been doing. It has just been phenomenal. And if you're a parent, hopefully you've been following online, watching the videos. Incredible. Here's why I say resourceful. Alyssa has been recording the videos with her phone every single week. She figured out how to do green screen. So if you look at the top right, it looks like the galaxy behind them. That's a white sheet behind there. And she has been editing all these movies in iMovie and figuring out how the green screen works. It's absolutely amazing. So thank you to that entire team for everything that they have done. The church is on the move. All right, here's another one. Look at that guy there in the middle. Ezra. Easy, baby. Come on. And so this is kind of online production from a church that we started dabbling a little bit in recording some of our Sunday services. I think we did like 4 or 5 of them, sometime late last year, just putting a camera up in the middle, a phone up in the middle of the auditorium. From going to that to starting our online services here in our house where, I had Kathy's phone stream onto Facebook and my phone stream on the Instagram. We were just trying to figure that out. And then Ezra steps in. And we've been doing kind of studio at home, studio at the office, studio at Aspen, or what we'll call it, and just done phenomenal work. So specifically, Ezra, a massive thank you to all the production work that you've done for online. Kathy, Stacy, Holly in front of the camera every single week, and myself, and we just love figuring out how to connect in different ways online, and it's been fun, and hearing great things. I mean, our online services, we have people who tell us that they've been watching church with their family members who would never come to church with them, ever come to church with them, had been watching it, and those kind of stories just fuel you for wanting to continue to reach people. So even when we come out of lockdown, we are definitely going to carry on with this in some way, shape, or form. So calling all volunteers who want to help us out.
None of us we were all amateurs. Probably not easy. Easy
is Mr. Pro.
Amateurs and talking in front of a camera and trying to, communicate quickly.
What do you say, Stacey?
No, I was just killing it. He's really stepped it up. It's been cool to see.
Absolutely. And Holly stepping it up on MCing. That's been amazing as well. And so we've been having a lot of fun. I think my particular favorite was when we did the sermon on the Lord's Supper, when we had an entire supper in front of me while I was preaching. And so luckily, Stacey and Holly and Ezra and Sam joined us afterwards to enjoy dinner with the Lord's Supper. Okay, next, here we go. Youth group.
Whoop, whoop.
Let's call it some for you. I think they're yet to be named. But the youth group, let me tell you something. We've been praying for wanting a youth group, and we've had one a few years ago. But for the last year or so, we've really been wanting a youth group. Even though we only have a few middle school and high school kids in the church, we always have people visiting and wanting to have a youth group. Look at that picture in the middle. Lady with a big, wide open mouth. And the laptop.
Oh my goodness.
That's Becca Tozer, killing it on the youth group stuff. Aaron at the top, Danny lying down with a beige shirt, and Cece. And the 4 of them, along with Connor and Abby, our kids have gotten together and every week have planned a meeting. The next week they had a Zoom meeting. Then they planned one the week after. And just this last Sunday, they got together and got 16 names of people who have visited our church or shown an interest in a youth group, and drove to all of their houses and dropped off a gift bag with an invitation to see them at the next youth meeting. So that is amazing. So huge thank you to this team. It's amazing. I'm so blown away by what God has done. And this all started in lockdown. It all started in the last 11 weeks. Isn't that amazing? All right, here's another one. Worship recording. Now, for the uninformed, let me just tell you, you watch a worship video on YouTube and you think, wow, that looks good. That looks easy. I'm sure, you look, there's a cable, there's a mic, just plug it in and go. The ability to take a bunch of instruments and mix them and make them sound half as good as a Sunday morning is an art in itself. People go to college to learn how to do that kind of thing. And we have just every week, we started with Pete and Carly, and I want to give Pete and Carly a massive thank you. You have done more than half of the recordings of worship over the last 11 weeks. Thank you so much. But we started with them, they offered and they said, look, we can do it. And here's one guitar and 2 voices. The mixing is easy with that. And then we added a drum with Colin and Brianna who was singing. And then we added more people, so over the last few weeks, we've had Peter and Carly, Colin and Brianna, Leah leading worship, Ezra playing and leading worship, Dave, oh, that's me. I wrote my name down. I've been involved as well. My daughter, Abby. Oh, no, that's Dave Bryant. Dave Bryant's killing it the last 2 weeks as we've been recording as well. Andrew Stegman has gotten involved in drums. Andrew Siders helping with recording. Just listing all the people have been involved with doing what we've never done before, online recording of worship, and done such an amazing job. And again, if any of you are watching, please reach out to these people and just thank them. It's countless hours that everyone has spent in this season putting together some semblance of a worship service and a sermon so that we could still stay on the same page as a church.
It's good.
And they're good.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. There's a few more because there's this many things that have gone on. So maybe
This is good. We need to hear this because I think we can get so distracted by media, get distracted by circumstances, easily get looking around, oh, well, I don't know what's happening. And so these kind of like family meetings, I think are so helpful for us as a church to just, again, be thankful to God that he's not left us. The church's kingdom of God is still on the move.
Yeah.
And things are happening, lives are changing in amongst the doors being closed, it seems. So, yeah.
Right. Okay, here's another one. Prophetic training. It's called Basic Training for the Prophetic Ministry. It's a course put on by Bethel in Redding, California. Clive and Wendy have been wanting to do this for a long time. They've been wanting to do this, I would say, a year, right? And in lockdown, in this season, this thing started. And at their first meeting, I think they had 12 or 14 people, and people learning or receiving prophetic words through Zoom for the first time in their lives. People learning to hear from the Lord and give words from the Lord in this season, in lockdown. I love it. It's amazing. The church has never shut down. It never did shut down. We just kind of didn't do Sunday meetings, and we kind of went online for a while. Thank the Lord for this technology. But so many people have been touched in this season. So thank you to Clive and Wendy for running the prophetic ministry.
Fun.
Yeah,
it's a lot of fun. I've been doing it.
Yeah,
it's a lot of fun too. You get stretched every week.
Okay, here's another one. I just got to say this first. Wow. When I think of the giving that we've been able to do as a church in the last 11, 12 weeks, $15,000 we have given in the last 3 weeks, last 3 months, less than 3 months.
That's been given to the fund, or we've been given?
We have been giving out from the church. So
very cool.
Thousands have come in specifically for the benevolence giving and people's tithing and giving over the years. We've just been able to be so generous. We gave a lot to Centennial, to families in need in Centennial. We've given a lot to the Dublin Food Pantry when we did gifts. You can see in that picture there in the middle, Stacy's here with his mask on with a trolley full of things. And then there's another trolley.
Those are the birthday bags.
Those are the birthday bags for the Dublin Food Pantry.
Yeah.
Here on the bottom right, she's very shy, but let's give a big shout out to Cindy Bankiris. Did I pronounce that right?
Mm-hmm.
Cindy Bankiris. Cindy single-handedly wrote how many of those cards? 20 cards for the Centennial families?
Stacey, do you remember how many it was? I don't actually remember.
I would say there were like 20. Yeah, she wrote.
Yeah, 20 is right. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, because we doubled up on gift cards.
Yes. And she gave, she took her time, she did the whole thing. It was amazing. Major thank you to Cindy. And then if you look at the top left, that is when everyone got together to put together the gift bags for the Dublin Food Pantry. Number of people, I think there were 8 or 10 people who came together to do that. We have continued to give to Ikaya Likababa, the orphanage in South Africa. And guys, I've just got to remind you, as generous as people have been here in the US, and you know, we've got such an infrastructure where the government has really helped a lot of people financially. Those kind of government support is not that available in other countries. So we look at what's happening in South Africa, and the poverty is already at a really low, significant amount of people in poverty. This kind of lockdown where the economy was shut down at such an extent has a huge impact on them. And you won't believe the feedback we get from Ikaya Likababa, the orphanage, what our giving has enabled them to continue to do to over 20 orphans that they care for full time. So church, thank you for all of your giving. Thank you for giving so generously in this season. Interestingly enough, the giving at 614 over the last 5 months has not decreased. It has actually increased fairly significantly. And so again, bless the Lord, thank the Lord for what he has done through your generous giving.
That also speaks of people's heart and trust in God with their finances.
Yes,
too.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, life groups. We've had at least 7 life groups actively meeting. Here's some screenshots of some of those. One of them decided to break the Zoom rule pretty early on, Lindy, and had social distancing in the parking lot. I wanted to join that, but it was ladies only. It looked like a lot of fun. But we had so many groups, almost 90 people on average joining our life groups every week, which is amazing. You know, if people I know who were not in life groups were struggling more because we were meant to live in community. God is in community with himself, Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. We were meant and made for community because we're made in the image of God. So even just the ability to meet online or meet in a parking lot has been so healthy for people. So I want to encourage you. We actually had a new group start. Alyssa decided that a kids ministry on its own was not enough. And somehow another life group popped out there and she's leading that. But if you want to start a life group, please DM us, talk to us, let us know you're on Facebook. We'll get it in hold, get a hold,
There you go.
get in hold with you. And we'd love to talk to you about what that looks like, what it means to start a life group, what we'd like to know you're doing as a group, and how we can help you administrate that. We need more life groups. There are way more than 90 people in our church. We need more people. We need 100% of people in our church connected in a life group, because church is not just about a Sunday, as you're seeing right now. Okay, one more. No, 1, 2, 3 more. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo. So good. Okay, look at this beautiful boy on the side, on the left. Yes, we thank the Lord for the miracle of saving this boy's life, of saving little Joel. And here the family was reunited, the top right. Thank you, church, for praying for them. Thank you for reaching out. Thank you for helping. Thank you for supporting them in so many different ways.
Wow.
So let's continue to pray for Joel as he continues to recover. But we just thank the Lord for his protection over that family, that he was still moving, that Jesus was not in lockdown. Jesus had not stopped moving, has not stopped working in this church. And that is just amazing. Okay, Wednesday Night Live. Here's the one shame, is we did not take hardly enough pictures of what happened with Wednesday Night Live. But we've had at least 10 Wednesday Night Live sessions in the last 12 weeks.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
And I mean, it was everything from Artie Kendall, as you can see there on the screen. We had Tammy Smith from Vista Community. It was amazing the conversation she had with the Myers. We had the Grenfells join us all the way from Virginia, even giving people prophetic words over Instagram Live.
Fun.
That was great.
We need to do that one again, I think.
We interviewed Margaret Stunt in Australia, friend Leo, and Nicotra, Leo and Christine Nicotra in Sydney, Australia. They were on. Paul Bergen from Nashville was on. And then we had other groups with people, Terry Kruger was on, Steve Studworth was on, the very own Senefs were on as our resident marriage specialists. That was fantastic.
We got medical guys that are in the medical field.
Yes, that was a good one too. That was Emily and Katie and Brian Staker. That was fantastic. So the only shame is we only got to record the last 2 when we figured out how to do the Zoom and being able to record it and put it on YouTube. So that's why we're doing this tonight through Zoom as well. We want to be able to record the session, remember what the Lord has done, and go forward that way. So, okay, last one, and this is another huge one, the young adults.
Photo.
Yes, I did that
That was
screen. Did I do that screenshot?
I think so.
I think I did. That's a lovely photo of Stacey and Holly. Holly, I'm sorry. I actually didn't even pay attention to the quality of that post.
They were intense. That was an intense one, right?
But they did scavenger hunts. They met together. They worshiping together in socially distant groups, which is fantastic. But the young adults have been amazing and have amazed us with everything that they've done. We have people from Chicago telling us how much they love the Instagram takeover. Best idea ever.
If you don't know, go follow them online. It's so cool to hear what someone from the young adults group takes over, introduces themselves, and just shares their day with you. And it's kind of fun that you get to see what different people do and what's going on and hearing their hearts. So
Yeah.
follow them on Instagram.
Yeah. Lastly, Wendy just typed it here on Facebook. The Zoom prayer meetings, we have had a number of those, which have actually been really fun as well. Go ahead, Stacey.
How did we miss that? The Zoom prayer meeting, because this has been great. I totally forgot.
Yeah, we missed that one.
We even had a regular from Houston join us, the Houston family.
Yeah.
That's right.
Okay. Well, here we go. Let's keep moving forward. You know, over the last few weeks, again, 11, 12 weeks, on average, we've been having about 275 viewers over the last 4 weeks, which, you know, across our different media platforms, which is amazing. The growth in social subscribers on our different platforms, 190 people more in the last 3 months, which is amazing how many more people have been reached. We're just trusting that people have been blessed through it, people have been saved through it, and lives have been blessed and enriched through the message that the Lord has given. And I've talked about the life group numbers. Okay, so as we go forward, here's a couple guiding principles I would just love to explore. And again, I'm looking here at Facebook, and Stacey, if there's a comment there that we need to read out or a question we need to read out, you just give me a holler, and we'll do that. But here's a few guiding principles as we think about going forward. There's a definite sensitivity here. There's a social sensitivity that I want us to be careful of, but there's also biblical imperatives that we need to adhere to. Number one, Hebrews 10:25 says, do not neglect meeting together, as some are in the habit of doing. Do not neglect meeting together. It is a biblical imperative for us to meet together. It is in the Bible. It happened all over the place. We want to meet together. We are blessed when we meet together. We can worship God when we meet together. We can reach others when we meet together. There's so many benefits to doing it, which is why in Hebrews 25, it is a biblical imperative that it is important for our spiritual growth, for our mental health, and our missions mandate. Number two, the size of a gathering is not a biblical imperative. Let's just keep that in mind. Scripture does show us that people met in various homes. Paul kept planting churches, and it says they met in this home and they met in that home. Scripture also tells us that they met in synagogues, synagogues of the day, which would be the church of this day. So they met in larger buildings, so they had large gatherings, they had home gatherings. It said they met daily in each other's homes. And there were outdoor meetings. You see Jesus who stood on a mountain, and 10,000 people are hearing him preach. So there's outdoor meetings, there's homes, and there's synagogues. That is in the Bible. The size of the gathering is not the imperative. But we know that at least weekly, at a minimum, the church met together on the Sabbath. It was a day of collective worship. And we know that they met daily in homes, and there were festivals, there were events. So these are the things we see in Bible. We should not be too concerned that if we are only able to meet with 50 people or 100 people, that now the government is limiting our religious freedom. The Lord wants us to meet together, but the size doesn't matter. And as you've seen over these last few slides, how active our church has been in this season. And that's important to keep in mind. We can be the church, and we can meet in homes, we can meet in smaller venues, as long as it takes for this corona virus to go away, for things to get better, for things to get opened up more. And so we think of those two biblical mandates that we see. Thirdly, as much as we can, while upholding biblical guidelines, we want to maintain a good witness to the outside world. We need to maintain a good witness to the outside world. There are a few scriptures in the Bible when Paul is training Timothy or Titus, and they're talking to leaders. They're saying, for example, if you want to be an elder, you need to have a good reputation in your community. If you've got a reputation that is not God honoring, and that's difficult for you then to take on a role of leadership in the church. The principle stands that we want to maintain a good witness while upholding biblical guidelines. If there's something against the Bible, man, we stand on it and we have to die for it. We need to die for it. But for the most part, we want to have a good witness. Stacy, you were looking up a verse for me. Did you find it?
Yeah, it's 1 Corinthians 9, 22 and 23. Paul is talking to the Corinthians and he says, "To the weak I became weak, to win the weak. I have become all things to all people, so that by all possible means I might save some. I do all this for the sake of the gospel, that I may share in its blessings."
Mm. I was thinking, thank you, Stacey. I was thinking about that verse. I'll be completely honest with you. The mask thing, it's hard, it's difficult. Sometimes I understand it. Sometimes you read this article, sometimes you don't. So now let me just think about that verse. It says, "I become all things to all people in order that some may be saved." You know what? If me wearing a mask makes people comfortable so that I can then be a witness to them, why not? Why not? It doesn't actually change my life. And me judging others for wearing a mask or not wearing a mask, all that does is bring disunity, and it makes our ability to influence them and show them the good news of Jesus. It limits it because we draw a wedge in our relationship before we can get to what really matters for a life and death sake.
Good.
So I want us to just keep in mind, this is a guiding principle as we think about going forward. Let's uphold wholeheartedly the biblical guidelines, right? But let us maintain a good witness to the outside world. Unfortunately, whatever your thoughts are about mainstream media, I must have read in 10 different papers over the last 3 months, a church in Arkansas where a number of people met together and 39 people got the virus and 3 people died. And they keep quoting that thing over and over and over. And it's putting a mark on the church, which isn't helpful. I want us to meet, and we should meet together as a church. But let's keep in mind, there are people who are sensitive, there are people who are nervous, and the main issue in their life is not their health. The main issue in their life is whether they're going to heaven or hell. That is the main thing. So if we need to wear a mask, if we need to be super sensitive, if I need to wash my hands multiple times to make other people comfortable so that I can then have a conversation with them about the risen Lord, man, I'm going to wash my hands all day long. So just keep those things in mind.
It's about perspective, right?
Right.
That's what you're saying.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then
the main thing.
Main thing.
Yeah.
Let's hear it, Stacey. Main thing.
The main thing.
That's
There you
right. Okay. Lastly, people, we've got to keep this in mind. People, Christians in our church are on all sides of the COVID scales. And maybe I wrote that wrong, but hopefully you understand what I mean. Some people are really concerned about their health, about the general health in their surroundings. And some people think it's completely overblown. Some people think, whatever. People are on all scales of this. We should be full of grace for one another and seek to maintain the unity of the Spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And that means you're going to sit near someone who is either wants to go and hug you and kiss you on the cheek just to prove a point. We'll try to stop that as much as we can. Or you're going to sit near people who may not even want to come to church for a while because they're so nervous about these things. It is not our job to judge other people for their position on health or their understanding of the situation, just as we don't want other people to judge us for it. What we do want is the ability to walk together, to serve Jesus, to see everyone get to know Jesus in the city. And whatever that means, we need to move forward. Okay, so are we Stacey, are we getting any questions yet? Or
No questions yet.
no?
Well, the good stuff's coming up.
Okay.
Well, the good stuff happened though. That's a long way.
We'll get to a good point now.
The how-tos,
Yeah, the actual.
the question stirrers.
We did do a survey, and Stacey sent it out to everybody. Thank you so much for filling that out. Last time we checked, there were 83 people who completed the survey. Here's a couple of big numbers. 91% of people in our church want to return to in-person meetings. That's a mixture of homes or meeting in a smaller venue or something. Those were the two main options we said, or just online. 91% of people do want to return to in-person meetings. That is amazing. I love it. That means 9% of people are still a bit nervous about this and would rather us wait a bit longer.
Or have health issues.
Or have health
Yeah.
issues or can't meet together.
Yeah.
That's fine too. We want to think of everybody in our go forward plan. And a vast majority of the things people are concerned about, the largest one, 43% of people were concerned with mental health as being the biggest challenge in this season. And honestly, I believe so much of those two things are connected. Our mental health is strengthened when we are in community, as we're seeing through various other stats throughout the media today. So here's what we're thinking in terms of coming together. You'll notice I don't necessarily have dates on here. And we're going to have to just play this by ear. There's a few factors that weigh on each of these steps. So let me just go through them just briefly, and then we can definitely take questions if there are any. So we're basically in level 1 right now. Everything, as much as we can, is online. Sunday church is online. Life groups are online. Prayer meeting is online. Prophetic training, you name it. Youth group, young adults, everything is online. That's our current situation. We are now moving into level 2, where we want to start having a home church in a sense. We'll continue online services in some way, but we want to start meeting in homes for those people who are comfortable, those people who are ready to get together. And life groups, if this is going to be up to each life group, but you know, for the most part, we can get together in homes. Most of our life groups are under 20 people. And if you're wondering about the governor saying that, you know, he's kind of limited groups over 10 people, I was reminded just an hour ago that churches were never prohibited from meeting in Ohio. I went to look at it. Churches, religious gatherings were excluded from the restrictions. And for the most part, churches and denominations and that made the call to go online because of public health and a public health concern. We are now believing that as the curve has flattened a lot, and as businesses are opening, and you know, you can go to a wedding now as well, and there's all sorts of things happening. In-person restaurants, inside seating,
Retail,
a lot of things. Retail is
salon,
opening.
gyms, yeah.
We think it's definitely time, keeping in mind we want to keep a good witness with the world as well. Man, this is a good time. Let's start meeting together. So we want to make as many homes available as are comfortable and can kind of follow along with the technical side of still having an online portion of the meeting. We're going to not yet have any formal kids ministry, but we'll carry on with what Alyssa's been doing, providing a great video and some materials that you can print out and do a craft with the kids wherever you are. So that's kind of stage 2. And we're checking Facebook, and Stacey, you'll interrupt me, right? Okay.
I absolutely will.
Stage 3, once we have done home church for a while, and once we can find a space where we can meet. Our particular problem with 614, no problem, particular challenge that we have in front of us is we do not currently have a place to meet. Because our primary Sunday morning meeting space has been a public school of Columbus, they are still not renting their facilities out to any outside group and even inside group. There are no kids activities going on in there. So Stacy and I and a number of people are scouring the city looking for a venue where we can meet with maybe 50 or 100 people while keeping some kind of social distancing in mind as well. For some churches, what we have learned, they've done is, maybe every other row they've put people in, let families sit together, but then have a couple of seats in between families just to create a bit of movement like that. So there are ways to do this and still adhere to social guidelines around how we move forward in this. But that would be stage 3. And so we're going to start with home churches as soon as homes are available. So this Sunday, I know we have a few homes available as well. So we want you to keep watching the website, and we will make those clear, and we will communicate that through our various forms of communication. Stage 3, as I said, looking for space for the summer, because we think it's going to be at least till September when the public schools open, that we would be able to either get back into Centennial or be able to lease a space that is perhaps a bit bigger or more permanent.
Great.
Very thirsty.
That's good.
Okay. So stage 4 would be, let's say that happens as soon as we get a more permanent space. We are looking for a place that we can lease or buy. Stage 4, for the time being, until we know more and have learned more, will not include kids ministry. There is still a concern out in the market or in the community that kids, although they seem to statistically not get infected with COVID, they are germ carriers, as we like to put it. So they seem to carry it more, even though it doesn't actually affect them as much. So that's where the sensitivity, even why schools shut down and all that kind of stuff shut down. So we want to make sure we understand more of what people are doing in the community, in spaces where kids are, before we allow kids ministry. And then stage 5 is, hey, go back to a full Sunday service with multiple meeting times. And in all of these stages, we want to carry on with online.
Yeah.
With online.
Yeah.
Hey, David, let me interrupt you. We got a couple questions.
Yes.
So one question has to do with home church. I'll just read it. Does home church mean watching online church with a group of people?
Great
Talk
question.
a little bit more about what we're doing as far as home church is concerned, and what it'll actually look like on a Sunday.
Yeah, great question. Thank you, whoever gave that. Let me say it like this. What we want to do with home church is start to have a more structured, and when I say structure, I don't mean the service has to be structured. I mean, like, hey, everyone, we're meeting at 10 at this house or at that house with these 7 or 10 homes. Our hope is as many worship leaders as we can, we would try and place with the different homes. I know of at least 5 or 6 worship leaders who've been willing to go to respective homes. So we could have at least 6 homes with a live worship leader. And for those who don't, we will create a YouTube playlist that you could play with your people, put it on the TV and worship together for 20 or 30 minutes or however that looks for you. What we will still do is live stream a sermon for every week and maybe a couple of announcements, which we will either give through the sermon through the video, or we will give to the host of each of those homes so that we can continue to kind of keep the things that are moving on in the church moving and able. But the central sermon for the time being is to keep us moving together as a church in the same direction. So does that answer the question?
That's good. Yeah, that's pretty good. I'll wait for a second to see if it does, but afterwards we have another question.
Give me the next question first, and then we can always come back to that one.
Sure. Yeah, next question. Have we considered securing a permanent location for 614 Church? A structure we can call our own. Is this something that we've been looking into?
Yes, I believe that was Mr. Becker. Absolutely. Mike, I don't think I am in the car. I'm never in a car where I'm not looking out the window at buildings, at warehouses, at churches perhaps who are no longer in operations. We would love to have a building. Now, obviously, these things cost a lot of money. We've been saving as a church. We've been putting money aside. And we trust that the Lord is going to provide something for us, that we could be rooted in a community, and then from there on start home churches and larger churches, church plants all over the city.
Mhm.
Our vision has always been for everyone to know Jesus. And ultimately, if we can have a church in Powell and a church in Dublin and a church in Bexley and in Grove City and in Upper Arlington and out in New Albany and even Gahanna, that would be amazing. But I've always thought there are like 20 communities in Columbus. I would love, for a good start, to have 20 churches in Columbus, as the Lord tells us to go into all the world and make disciples of all nations.
That's good.
I want to say,
Hey,
to us
Oh,
as a church, sorry, Stacy.
Go ahead.
Us as a church family, this I think is something that we should like somewhat own together in terms of, let's be praying. This is something on our hearts we've wanted, we've pushed for at times, we've let go, we've knocked on doors, we've like fasted and prayed. It's like it seems like this could be the season now where it's time for 614 to have its roots planted in a more permanent space, as you say. So I want to say to us as a church family, let's be owning this. Let's be putting 614 permanent address on our prayer list. Let's, knock on those doors. If you hear something about a building, any little thing, let's trust that God is going to show us.
Yes.
It doesn't have to come through us two. It doesn't have to come through Stacey and them. It doesn't have to come through leadership. You guys might know somebody or have heard of something. And I'm trusting that for a miracle and a testimony.
Yes.
And that the space will be used so that everybody can know Jesus.
Yes.
But as a family, let's own this.
Absolutely.
Yeah. There was a question on here.
Hey, David. So talking about home churches and question about when this might start. So you don't have any on our ReMerge plan, no dates on these things, but talk a little bit about when we might start doing home churches.
So Stacey, great question. Here's what we need. We need to lock down how many homes would be willing and able to host people. And then we need
confirm lockdown is
lockdown. Confirm is a better word. And we need to know what you feel and what you're comfortable with the capacity in that house. So for Kathy and I, when we started the church, our busiest Sunday, we had like 40, 45 people in our living room, but there was no ways we can do that now because everyone was literally sitting on top of each other. So at this point, we're going to be comfortable with at least 20 people in our living room that we will make available starting this week. And what we're going to do is ask, Stacey has created a sign-up sheet for each of the homes. We've got about 5 or 6 that are praying about it and are a definite maybe, and will let us know ASAP. But we want to know from each of those homes. And if you're listening here and you feel, I want to do this, then let us know. Tell us how many people you could host. And then Stacey will create a sign-up sheet for that blocks when the capacity has been reached. So if you say you can only take 20 people, if someone's registering and they're the 21st person, it'll actually say, sorry, this house is full. And they can do another one. It's the worst feeling for me as a pastor because I never want to turn anyone away. So that's why we need as many homes as possible. If there can be 3 people meeting with you, honestly, that's better than just sitting on your own. We need community. So the ask for you is consider, would you open your home? Are you comfortable doing that? Then consider what you would need to be comfortable with that. For example, asking everybody when they walk in to wash their hands. That is completely reasonable. It's not something you would normally do when you host people, but in this season, hey, let's do it. Let's try and get everybody comfortable. If you need people to wear a mask, I'm going to leave that up to you. It is not a requirement in our state, but it is recommended. So if that will bring your friend with you because he knows people will wear a mask as much as they can, let's do it so that people in this season can get to know Jesus.
Good. Hey, so another question. Talking about home churches and if we are able to meet at a physical location, maybe in smaller groups and as permitted. Talk about kids ministry. Are there going to be kids ministries in each of the homes or in the location if we start meeting together? Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, good question as well. I would say this, when we're talking about a home church, we're going to leave that up to the host. If you're opening up your home and you are or are not comfortable with certain things, I'm just keeping that in mind. There are people at all sides of the spectrum. When you sign up, you'll be signing up with an email and the host will be able to communicate with you a couple things about the house. My suggestion would be, for the time being, not to have a separate kids ministry. What we can consider is, if you're meeting together, let's say at 10, we tell people to get together. Perhaps you want to start with the 15-minute kids video that Alyssa does. Or you want to start with some worship, include your kids, stand there with the parents, and then put the kids video on. That's a 15-minute video, and then have printed the crafts and the things that the kids are going to be doing while the sermon is going. That's been a way that we've been trying to manage. We have 4 kids. It's like we have kids church in our house every Sunday. But that's been a way that we've been trying to maintain some way where we can still focus on the message and we can focus with the people around us. So if we get into a summer location, again, at first, we're not going to have kids ministry. As we get into that 1 week, 2 week, 3 weeks, this will be a very flexible plan that we put together, and we'll communicate on our website what the plan is. But again, no one's been in this environment before, and we're learning as we go. And would love any of your feedback, especially if we can get all the parents together and let's take a collective. Hey, show of hands, how many of you are comfortable with your kids playing with other kids? If 100% of you are good with that, hey, let's figure this out. Let's do kids ministry together. I'm going to take a drink of water. Are there any more questions, Stacy?
I think that's it for now. You guys, if you have your questions, go ahead and put them in.
I think I saw here on Instagram, Brian mentioned teaching, worship, communion, more. Absolutely. If you guys didn't get to hear the sermon, was it 2 weeks ago? I spoke on the Lord's Supper. I spoke that message as such a conviction from the Lord about the fact that we actually need to take our communion more often in homes than we do on a Sunday morning. I would love for us to learn the heart of communion, the culture of communion, that we start taking communion in life groups, and that be the primary place where we get together and we share. So if you haven't listened to that message, I encourage you, please go listen. It was a couple of weeks ago.
It's on our YouTube.
It's on the YouTube. It was the Lord's Supper. That was an important message. Our community time is a time of remembering what Jesus did, worshiping together, learning from the word together, and encouraging each other through community, through prophetic words, through praying for one another and loving each other. Okay, if there's more questions, please let them come. We got 5 minutes left. Here's what I want to say. We want to do host as many Sunday services as we can in homes, and we will be communicating over the next day or two a new page on our website that is specifically for this transition period that we are in. I want to ask you prayerfully consider whether you will host a home and what that looks like for your family. Let me know. Be clear with me what will make you comfortable, what won't make you comfortable. But I encourage you, you will be blessed when you open up your home. Kathy and I have never not been blessed when we've opened up the home and seen people here and see what God does in people's lives. So what?
The screen share also, they can see us.
Okay. I just wanted to think of one more thing.
Sorry.
If you were wondering, can we skip a step? We can. But for the time being, we're going to step 2 right now. if in the next 3 weeks someone gives us a building, or we find the building, we'll skip 3 and we'll go straight to step 4. If someone else wants to know what's the status on the venue and Centennial, I think I've covered a little bit with Centennial. They are thinking mid-September that they would be opening up to people again. So we are hoping to have this sorted out before then. I think that's it. Let me stop sharing the screen so we can look at least to the beautiful Stacy and Holly and find out, are there any questions?
This is a good question, Dave Bryant. So it says, being sensitive towards those that might come, can people make requests to homes when signing up? Maybe hosts would consider rules to make people feel more comfortable. So Dave, tell me if I have this right. Is there a way for people that are signing up to, send other requests or other comments or thoughts to the house that they're considering going to? That's a great question, and I could absolutely, we could add that to the form for sure. But
yeah, let's think of 2 ways to maybe answer that question. The one is if the person who wants to go to the home has a request, and so Stacy, if we can include a comment box when people are signing up for the house, right? So they can make a specific comment in there. If the host wants to communicate to those people who've signed up, what they will be able to do, Dave, Brian, if this is where your question was, is to email or text everyone who has signed up to your house and say, hey, we can't wait to see you. Here's a couple things that are kind of house rules for us. I have house rules when people come to my house, and I'm not embarrassed today. So share your house rules, and remember, we're going to be full of grace for each other. But I thank those homes that are willing to host, and it's your house. Do what you need to do, and let's be honoring and respectful of people as well.
This is going to take, I think, a little while to figure out, and then it's probably going to change again.
Yes.
Because someone's going to give us a building.
Someone's going to give us a building.
Here's another question. Someone asked, if we come to your house, can you please stop saying dad jokes? Kidding.
Was that one of our kids?
Okay. Gosh, there is one more thing. Oh, I would say this, that we got a good question from Ezra. Can these house churches meet at a later time? Example, if a house can only be available after 6 p.m. I love that. Yeah. So if you want to host and your house can only be available after 6 p.m., why don't you let us know?
Yeah,
let us know. Idea. I'd love to have options for a morning and an evening time. That would be great. Another suggestion is if you would like to have lunch with people afterwards.
Or dinner, if it's after 6.
Or dinner, if it's after 6. Then you have the ability as a host to decide, hey, I see we got 20 people coming, and I believe that person cooks really well. So, hey, bring your favorite dish. I will have bread or burgers here, and let's have a meal together. Let's supper together. So that is amazing. It's some of the best community times we've ever had was in the early days of the church when we had lunch every single Sunday after church. So that would be a great way as well to be the church.
Question.
Anything else?
Maybe like this is my own question for real. An extension of that, like could people have, churches, Sunday church or home church, whatever, like on a Tuesday?
Good question. I would say generally I'd love for those to be life groups.
Right.
If you want to have a life group, that would be great. Yeah. And we have life groups on Monday, Tuesday, Thursdays, I believe, or most of our life groups are. Yeah. But I think like a Saturday night or Sunday night could be another great option for like a kind of more Sabbath type service.
Good. Cool. Okay.
Good. All right. Well, friends, that's been an hour, and thank you everyone for joining us. We will put this on, keep this on Facebook, and we'll put it on YouTube as well. And just trust that the Lord is moving in people's lives to hopefully open up their home, and that we could see many, many people come into community in this season. Stacey, why don't you pray for us and we finish?
Yes, I'll pray. I was hoping you'd ask. God, I thank you for 614 Church, and I thank you for all of its members. I thank you for everyone who calls it home. God, would you continue to bless us during this time? Holy Spirit, would you continue to work in us and work on us and work through us as we consider how you may be moving us in this next season as we take next steps to reemerge from everything that's been going on. God, we trust that you are still moving your kingdom forward, that you are still advancing and pushing back darkness, and we are so thankful to be a part of it. God, we love you and we trust you, and it's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Amen.
Thank
It's
you.
Good to see you.
Good to see
Good
you.
to see everyone on Facebook.
Bye.
Have a good rest of your day.
Yeah.
Evening.
Yeah.